The morning of the A1-inch Prüfung arrived with a biting chill that seemed to seep through Elian's coat. He stood outside the testing center, his fingers tracing the embossed edges of his residence permit. Around him, the air was thick with the nervous energy of fellow students, their voices a low murmur of articles and verb conjugations. He realized that this wasn't just a test of grammar, it was the final gate he needed to pass to truly begin his life here. Inside the quiet hall, the only sound was the rhythmic scratching of pens and the steady ticking of the wall clock. Elian focused on the reading comprehension section, a long text describing a local flow marked. He remembered his teacher Jürgen's advice: don't translate every word, find the logic. Slowly, the sentences began to knit together, shifting from a puzzle of foreign symbols into a story he could actually understand. The Sprechen part of the exam was the final hurdle. Elian sat across from Thalita, both of them trying to keep their hands from shaking. Their task was to engage in a simple dialogue about their daily routines. When Thalita asked him what he did on weekends, Elian didn't hesitate. He answered in full sentences, navigating the word order with a newfound fluidness. For a few minutes, the examiners disappeared, and it was just two friends, finally speaking the same language. An hour later, Jürgen emerged from the evaluation room with a stack of preliminary results. The hallway fell silent. When Jürgen reached Elian, he didn't say a word. He simply gave a sharp, satisfied nod and handed him a certificate with the word bestanden printed in bold letters. Elian felt a rush of adrenaline that made his hands tingle. He had crossed the first bridge. He was no longer just a guest. He was a student who had succeeded. The class drifted to a nearby Kneipe to celebrate their collective victory. The atmosphere was electric with relief. Navan raised a tall glass, toasting to their survival of the German dative case. They laughed about the mistakes they had made during the stress of the exam, sharing stories of the words they had accidentally invented. In that wood-paneled room, the group of strangers felt like a family, bound by the shared struggle of finding a voice. The next morning, Elian realized his real exam was still ahead. He had an appointment at the Bürgeramt to finalize his permanent registration, a task notorious for its complex bureaucracy. He sat with Mika at the kitchen table, rehearsing his opening lines one last time. Ich habe einen Termin, he practiced, his voice steady. Mika mimicked him, chirping, Termin, and waving a plastic spoon. Elian knew he couldn't rely on a translator today. He had to do this alone. The Bürgeramt was a maze of gray hallways and digital number displays. Elian sat on a hard plastic chair, watching the numbers tick upward on the screen. The air was heavy with the sound of shuffling paper and the stern voices of officials. He clutched his folder, his mind racing through the vocabulary for address and signature. In the past, this environment would have been paralyzing, but today he felt a quiet, hard-won confidence. His number finally flashed on the screen. Elian entered a small, sunlit office where an official named Beatrix sat behind a mountain of files. She looked up, her expression neutral and professional. Elian took a breath and began. He explained his request clearly, providing his documents as she asked for them. When she asked a clarifying question about his duration of stay, he didn't switch to English. He understood the wie lange, and he answered with precision. Beatrix worked with a practiced efficiency, her keyboard clicking like a metronome. Finally, she picked up a heavy ink stamp. With a decisive Zack, she pressed it onto his form and signed her name with a flourish. Alles in Ordnung, she said, offering a rare, fleeting smile. Willkommen in der Stadt. Elian took the stamped paper, feeling a sense of legitimacy he hadn't expected. The stamp wasn't just ink, it was an official acknowledgement of his place. Walking out into the crisp afternoon air, Elian felt a foot taller. He stopped at a bakery on the corner, ordering a Brötchen without a second thought, the words rolling off his tongue naturally. The city no longer felt like a giant, incomprehensible machine. By learning the language, he had learned how to navigate its gears. He headed home to Mika, ready to tell him that they weren't just staying in the country, They were finally living in it.